Boy, do they ever need that. They're in Pitt territory. Out in space down the sideline is Callaway breaking free inside the 10. Touchdown, Tennessee!
Well, Cedric Tillman, after making the big catch, he's the blocker out in front, and it's a missed tackle on the perimeter, and the speed on the sidelines by Callaway got a chance to lock.
Hello, Vol Nation and college football fans. Welcome to episode 1 of the VolBoyz podcast, where it's just four boys talking Vols. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on our socials. We got a YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. All at VolBoyz podcast. That's boys with a Z. My name is Trevor, and I'm joined by the boys today. We got Levi.
Hey.
Connor.
What's up?
And Andrew.
What's up?
All right, guys. So quickly, we can introduce ourselves real quick. Why we love Vol sports and what it means to us. So Levi, you can start us off.
So I love all sports because I've grown up in Tennessee my whole life, and my dad, he's always a big fan. He went to UT for his first 2 years of school. It's like I've always been a fan because he got me into it, and I just ever since I was in fourth grade when I went to my first game, it's always been something I've loved, and so I'm a massive fan. I've been watching since the Butch Jones era and even a little bit into the Dooley era. So I haven't had much good stuff to go for my fanship of the Vols, but hopefully that's going to change soon, and hopefully that'll change this year. But love the Vols, love watching them.
Connor, what's your fanship looking like?
Oh, I definitely agree with Levi. I mean, it's just grew up with it. Dad always watched it. There's always been ups and downs, obviously, throughout the Tennessee years, but I think one of the main things that sort of keeps you in it is even though there's always downs, there's always going to be an upside to those things, looking at these games. And I think that's definitely something that just gets you involved, because over all the sports, there could be downs, but there's always going to be those times where it's up. So
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's like these guys were saying, it's kind of like a family tradition type thing. I mean, I remember every Saturday waking up and, I've been to a couple of Vols games in the past. I haven't been able to go as much as I want to, but just waking up and Saturdays is what me and my family just lived and breathed for the Vols watching. And, that fourth week in the whole college football schedule, it's always going to be that Florida and Tennessee game, which has been not as much as a rivalry as it should have been as in the past, but just looking forward to those games. Went through a lot of heartbreak, but I mean, I think a lot of Tennessee fans, especially us, why we've even started this podcast, is just there's something to be excited about now. It's a big season for the Vols with everything going on. We're on that hype train, so it's just tradition, and I mean, I don't know how you couldn't love it growing up in Tennessee. It's a one of a kind feeling.
Yeah, I agree. With all you guys, for me, it was just I grew up watching it, man. I've been a Vols fan since birth, pretty much. Grandparents. My grandparents live in Knoxville. My dad's a Vols fan. It was just it's just been a family tradition, and I've loved it. Through the ups and downs. Nothing gets better than Vols football, and college football in general. It's a big passion of mine, and pretty much everybody here. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with that, do you guys want to jump into a quick takeaways of the Ball State game? That happened, Thursday night in Neyland. Tennessee victory, 59-10 over Ball State. What's some takeaways we can look at from that game, and looking forward to the season?
I'd say my main takeaway from the game is that I feel like Josh Heupel kind of just kept it the game. It's just kind of a basic game where he didn't want to put all of his cards on the table for the first game against Ball State. So we didn't look outstanding. It's I mean, we beat them 59-10. So I mean, that's a pretty high score. We beat them pretty badly, but I don't feel like we showed our best during the game. But I mean, that's kind of what happens whenever you play a cupcake team first week. And so I feel like we're gonna definitely improve from week 1 to week 2 because we're gonna be able to actually put all of our cards on the table against Pitt and actually show some more interesting stuff against them. And I definitely think our defense is gonna be better too. I mean, we didn't get any sacks against Ball State, which is kind of a little it makes me a little nervous, but other than that, I think our defense is pretty good. But one thing I did hear was that Ball State they did a lot of quick passes, so we didn't really have time to get any sacks, so that could be one reason why. But those are my key takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The defense is a concern a little bit. I mean, we can all agree on that one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But I think linebacker play was really good. Aaron Beasley had a really good game. I think he had like 8 tackles.
yeah, for sure.
Uh, Defensive line didn't look as impressive as I would have thought. But as you were saying, like we didn't have time to dial up any pressure. Like they were literally just throwing the ball super quick, trying to get out of the QB's hands. They were running the ball a lot too. I don't know. Overall, the DBs played pretty well. I think Warren Burrell's kind of a concern. But we need to lean on our seniors in the secondary. I think that's one of the strongest parts of our defense, personally. But yeah.
What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Defense is definitely one of those things that you're looking at, and it is a concern. But I think that's strictly defensive line. We did, like Trevor said, have really good linebacker play with coverages as well, which was really good. Even though they were able to get the ball out fast, and most of it was checkdowns. I loved Hendon Hooker during the game. I loved his decisiveness over from last year, and he just spread the ball out. Even though he didn't have a lot of passing yards, those passing yards were like to almost every wide receiver that we had and every running back, which I loved about that game. And so that's definitely something that I'd take as a big takeaway is I think we're going to be spreading the ball out a lot more than we did last year.
Yeah, I mean, offense looked in midseason form, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there was no fallout from last year. Like, our production stayed the same. And I think the beginning sequence of, the interception into the touchdown throw from Hooker to Hyatt, it kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. So,
Yeah.
What you got, Andrew?
Yeah, so like you guys were saying, I think the really what I take away from this game is just where we picked up where we left off from last season. We started out really quick. I mean, you got McDonald there with the first play of the game. They tried to pull the flea flicker, and he intercepts it. Next play, Henning comes out and throws a dot to Hyatt, and he actually runs it in there to the end zone. But the biggest thing I take away is just the leadership that's grown on this team. Hendon comes out, he just looks like he owns that team. He just runs it. He owns it. Defensive side of the ball, I felt like we could definitely the secondary is what scares me a little bit. Like we were talking about, just the inexperience there. But we played a lot of guys, against Ball State, and I think that's something that we got to realize. Also, going back to the linebacker play, I thought we played really good, especially. Considering, we actually didn't even have Jawan Mitchell that game. And I've heard he's going to be coming back for Akron, so I don't think he's going to be back for this, but he's a huge piece of that linebacking corps too. And I know that they really want to get him back. But overall, I would take, especially offensively, like I think we were very efficient with what we did to the ball, moving it down the field. But going back to what Levi said, I definitely think play calling was kind of conservative, really just kind of basic. You see a lot of like look like kind of like some screen passes, little darts, nothing really deep, just the way that Ball State was playing, and also with defensively, we weren't really getting that much pressure on the quarterback, but I guess that also goes back to them, just with the quick release and the quick passes and things like that, but. Overall, I think we looked really good for a week 1 game, and they definitely say, from week 1 to week 2, we grow the most. So I'm really excited for this. It's a huge test, honestly, for Tennessee, and kind of what the program's going to look like this whole year is leading up to this Saturday. But overall, I think, it's a 59-10 win against the Ball State team, which wasn't that good like last year in their record. But, I mean, like, honestly, I really have no complaints besides, a little bit of scares on the defensive side, but I think we're going to get that straightened up and fixed for this weekend.
Another key takeaway I have from the game is Joe Milton. Because like
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year, Joe Milton looked
Mhm.
horrible, and when he came in for that game, I think he looked the best he's looked since he's been here. And that's good for us because you always want to have a good backup. And I think if we like worst comes to worst, something bad happens to Hendon, I think we aren't going to be as in good hands. But I think it won't be as bad as it would have been last year if Hooker was gone. And so that's
Yeah.
good. That's good to know because like in the Ole Miss game last year, Hooker got hurt at the end of that, and then we couldn't do anything because Milton wasn't able to make the play. But now this
Mhm.
year, I think I'm more confident in his ability to make the play if something like that happens again. And so that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And I just like the maturity, after, I mean, I'm not going to lie, after the first couple games he played last season, he got a lot of hate for, the overthrown balls and stuff. The guy has a cannon. I mean, there's no doubt about it in athleticism, and he's a unit for sure. And especially this game, you could just tell. It looks like we honestly just have two starting QBs out there. I mean,
I mean,
Joe
yeah.
Milton could probably go anywhere and play and start, to be honest, like, some other team. But
Yeah.
yeah, seriously, I love his progression. He looks a lot better, a lot more comfortable in the offense as well with Hendon. And I just love their bond with each other and just how they're able to, even though Milton lost the starting job to Hooker, there's no loss of respect or nothing like that. They're all just friends. And that's big on a team like this, especially for the season we're expecting to have out of them. So definitely they're both going to have to stay healthy and be key pieces in this offense.
Yeah, just going back to what you guys said about Milton, like he's got potential to be one of the best, if not the best QBs in the nation. Honestly, I really think so. He's at least the most talented QB in the nation. Like he's going to be an NFL prospect one day, just because the cannon, even the like Andrew said, the maturity and the growth, and even in leadership, I think a little bit. I mean, facing adversity last season, like you were saying, is from the fans mostly, is got to be really hard. But coming out this season, he went 8 for 9, 113 yards, a touchdown. It's against Ball State, but I mean that's way better than he would have played last season for sure.
Yeah,
How he
sure.
played against Bowling Green, you know. Um, and then one more thing to touch on, like you were saying earlier, Andrew, the linebacker core. Without having Jawan Mitchell and playing as well as they did, that's something to look forward to for sure from this team because I didn't know what to expect from the linebackers, but Jawan Mitchell is a key piece to that core, and he wasn't even there, and they played really, really well.
Dude, trust in Jeremy
So,
Banks. Trust in Jeremy Banks.
yes, sir.
Yeah, Jeremy Banks. I just totally expect Jeremy Banks to have a really good year after last year. I mean, he really was the heart and soul of that defense last year, and he showed sparks. I mean, it wasn't all there yet, but I mean, this
Yeah.
is the first game that they're really working into. So he looked really good. I want to, especially going back to the defensive side of the ball, especially the front four.
Yeah.
I really want to see more from. I know Byron Young, and I want to see more out of Byron Young. And I just want to see him get pressure on the quarterback for sure. I think that's something that Tennessee really needs. It'll help the corners out, especially with the inexperience, just being able to have a little bit of pressure to, give that quarterback a little less time to make that throw, you know what I mean? And I just think that's something that we really got to get and look for in this Pitt game to see if they're able to get some pressure on the quarterback because unlike, I mean, Pitt's not going to they're not going to have that quick pass like Ball State was. I mean, they're definitely going to want to take their time a little bit, and definitely they're probably going to go for the run game, like Levi was saying, but also they're going to look for those deep shots because of the inexperience on the corners.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now let's move on to our stars of the game real quick from the Ball State game. Obviously, we scored a lot of points. Obviously, it was an inferior opponent. Who's y'all stars of the game? Let's start with Levi.
I'd say probably Beasley. He's definitely the defensive star of the game, and then I'd have to go to Jalen Wright because running backs is something we need badly, and I think he looked really good during the game and had a lot of good plays. So I'd say those two are my stars of the game. Of course, there's other people who played good, but those two stuck out to me most on both sides of the ball, and so that's what I'd say.
All right, let's move on to Connor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely love to see what Jalen Hyatt did that first drive, making people miss on that just first pass of the game.
Yeah.
I would obviously love to put him as a player of the game, but he wasn't really too impactful. But I think that was strictly due to Hendon Hooker's spreading out of the ball, which I loved that game.
Yeah.
So I don't think any individual wide receiver could definitely be put as the player of the game.
Yeah.
Hendon Hooker obviously in the conversation, but I definitely agree with Levi by saying Wright is definitely has to be with our running back core.
All right. Andrew?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go back to the running back corps too. I think Jalen Wright looked really good. That's something we're really going to have to rely on this season because, as you guys probably know, if our run game's going, then our passing game's going to be great. But I'm actually going to shout out the freshman Dylan Sampson, bro. I mean, scored his first touchdown. He looked really solid for a back. I mean, for a freshman especially. I mean, for as much as they've been talking about him in the offseason, and the work he's been putting in, I think it really, like Josh Heupel said in his press conference, it carried over. I really like the way Jalen Hyatt's grown. He looks like he fits with this starting group. 100%. He has to be out there with. He has to be in that slot. I really like him in the slot. Obviously, losing Valus was a big thing, but I think Jalen's going to be great. And seeing some flashes of Brew was pretty cool. He only got, I think, about like 3 targets this game. But overall, I would say probably Dylan Sampson and obviously Hendon Hooker. I mean, he just looked in command of the offense. And on the defensive side of the ball, I would have to say Beasley as well. He would look very impressive. So that's probably my key players of the game.
One quick thing I want to say about Dylan Sampson is, yeah, I think he looked really good and he got that touchdown. But one thing I am worried about is he did have that one fumble. And, like, if you're going to fumble the ball against Ball State, I'm a little worried about your ability to control the ball.
Was that
harder? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was him, but I could
I
be
thought
wrong.
it was.
I think it was Justin Williams.
Yeah, it was
Justin
Justin Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was one that I was actually looking high in just for his build and his. He was a freaking high school.
I knew it was one of the freshmen, but I thought it was Sampson. But
yeah,
either way, whoever it was, we got to be worried about them keeping control of the ball. But other than that, if it was
I think
Sampson,
it's a growing moment. Yeah,
if it was Sampson, I still think he looked really good. Other than that, I think the running backs was the position I was most surprised by from that game, as in like the happiest with the results. But yeah, that's my opinion. But what do you think, Trevor? Who are your stars of the game?
Probably for me, I'm gonna go with the receiving core, kind of like Connor was talking about. Hendon spread the ball around, man, and like I think we do have a true number one in Cedric Tillman, but I think we have one of the deepest receiving cores in the whole country. I mean, just look at we got Brew, Ramel Keaton had a good game, Jimmy Holiday had a touchdown.
Squirrel White, another receiver, I thought he looked really good as well with the ball in his hands. Squirrel White, the freshman that came in. And
he's quick.
obviously, and also like Jimmy Holiday, he looked really good with that touchdown too.
Yeah, for me personally, I think the star of the game from the receiving core is going to be Cedric Tillman. I think, like Connor said, no one receiver, I say the receiving core in general is my star of the game. But Cedric Tillman, he did have the most catches. 6 catches, 68 yards. No touchdowns, but he's going to be just as dominant as he was last year, maybe even more so. So I just think the potential is there. And it was good to see him come out and play, living up to his potential a little bit. All right, guys. Do you guys want to move on to the Pitt preview?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Pitt preview. First, let's just talk about a quick analysis, the West Virginia game for Pitt. Going into it, that was pretty much a toss-up. College football or college game day game, week 0, Thursday night, prime time. What y'all think about that game?
Well, here's what I think. I think so. West Virginia versus Pitt. Like, I thought it would be a close game, but here's the thing: is I didn't think West Virginia is a good team. I just thought that Pitt was overrated, and so it was going to be a close game. And so I think the West Virginia game kind of proved that point to me because it was a home game for Pitt, and they didn't look outstanding. It didn't look like an ACC champion from last season. Like, they do not look the same team. and I do not think they're as good as they were last year. And so that's kind of what the West Virginia game showed me because they had to get turnovers, multiple turnovers to win that game. Without those turnovers, I don't think they win that game. And I think West Virginia wins it. And so that makes me think that if we can not get turnovers, or not have turnovers, we're gonna do probably beat Pittsburgh more better than West Virginia could have. But that's my thoughts when they get that game.
Honestly, JT Daniels was impressive for West Virginia.
Yeah.
But he just at the very end of the game, obviously he threw that interception. Not even his fault. He couldn't carry the victory. I mean, bounce off the receiver's hands. Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything about that. Honestly, what I'm thinking is just Pitt struggled with a middle of the pack Big 12 team. And I mean, let's be honest, that's all West Virginia is. That's at least what I think. West Virginia's got a pretty good defense, and they were able to put pressure on Slavis, the Pitt quarterback. I think they got 5 sacks on him. If we do that, we win the game. I honestly think defensive pressure is going to be key in this one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For me personally. So, Connor, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I mean, I hate to say this, but I love the way West Virginia played in the game that they played. Obviously, it is Pitt. I definitely think they're overrated, but going into that game with that high-ranking opponent as Pitt and just actually competing, even though it came down to a heartbreaking loss of an interception pick six back. I mean, JT Daniels, like Trevor said, did play really well for being behind as a backup for most of his career, starting out USC and then having to transfer, obviously going to Georgia and getting beat out by Stetson Bennett. I mean, seeing him as a starter does look good, but then looking at Pitt, obviously, as Levi said, they're a more run-heavy offense. But even though Kendon Slovis had 308 passing yards, he did have pressure in his face almost the whole game, and I definitely agree with Trevor that it's going to have to be something that we have to go into. I mean, we have to pressure the quarterback.
Well, they also they didn't run they didn't run the ball very well either. Pitt did.
No, they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they were trying to do was run the ball, and they couldn't against West Virginia. And I think that our run defense is the best aspect of our defense.
I agree.
And so that if that's what they're going to try and do all game, I think that's going to be a really good matchup for us.
And West Virginia ran all over them, right? I'm pretty sure they had
over 200
yards.
I'm looking at it right here. Yeah, I'm looking at it here. I mean, their top rushing, which is Donaldson. He only had 7 carries for 125 yards. I mean, that's 17.9 on average, per carry. And I mean, it's well over 200 yards what they got in this game.
Rushing.
And it's close. It's right up at 200. Yeah.
And
JT Daniels threw the ball too.
Pitt's supposed to have a good D-line, and so that kind of makes me wonder, do they actually have a good D-line? But maybe it could just be West Virginia has good running backs, because I don't know too much about West Virginia and their players, but I don't know. That's kind of a red flag for me if I was a Pitt fan, them not being able to run the ball in the West Virginia. But
yeah, Andrew, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm going to go in. Obviously, Pitt's not the same Pitt team as they were last year. They're still, honestly, I will give them credit. They do look better than what I thought. I mean, you lose your number 1 receiver, Jordan Addison, and plus, you lose Kenny Pickett to the NFL. I mean, Jordan Addison's at USC now. They don't know necessarily who their big, targets are going to be. I mean, I thought West Virginia played a great game. JT Daniels looked pretty good in that offense. It's just good to see him starting, for a team. I think he's worthy of a starting position, coming from Georgia and stuff. But I will say Pitt's D-line really had me, to be, thought of as probably one of the best pass rushing defenses, or the pass rushing front, they didn't look all that great. Especially going back over to Pitt's offensive line. Letting up the 5 sacks, they just got, West Virginia was able to constantly get Clovis, that pressure and just make him, make quick decisions or just bad throws, So I I really see this game, coming in with Tennessee. Tennessee has got to get pressure on Slovis. He does not. If we can get pressure on Slovis, it's going to change this whole game. I think it's going to be. This game is really going to be won in the trenches and on that one-on-one, matchup on the outside. They're going to play that press man. So I really look to see, I really look to see our receivers try to attack that. I think we have some good route runners, some good one-on-one matchups, especially with Brew and Cedric, on the outsides here to make them spread that ball and push it downfield. But overall, I think, Pitt didn't look as good as, they probably should have been. But then again, this is week one. Teams are weird. Every team's weird in week one. In general, teams mostly, unless, if you're Tennessee with Jeremy Pruitt or something, you get better as the season goes on normally. But you never know with injuries and things. I know they're dealing with like a left tackle issue on the offensive line or something like that. But like I said, I really look at this game going in. It is a test. Pitt has an advantage of it being a home game. But I really think as long as what Josh Heupel talks about, considering from last year, the last 48 hours, how they prepare for the game is the most important part. So as long as they're locked in and dialed in, they're getting on the plane today to actually head down to Pitt. But as long as they can lock in, show up, and play, with that intensity like we know they can, especially just with Tyler Barron and, Byron Young, if they can get that pressure to that quarterback, I think it's going to be a game changer for us. And I think I look for Jeremy Banks to have a big game. I'm not going to lie, I think our corners are going to be tested this game a little bit, especially with the inexperience coming from what's his name there? Not Beasley, but yeah. I just see this as I see Tennessee definitely getting a win. Hopefully, as long as, like I said, that last 48 hours they can really hone in and bring that intensity into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, it all comes down to, the differences between last year's and this year's game, I think, and the differences in rosters. I think we got a better roster and depth than they do. And it's just a completely different game from last season. So we might as well just head into the keys to the victory against Pitt. And Levi, you can start us off with that. I think Andrew talked about it a little bit.
I definitely think the keys to a victory against Pitt is solid defense. So where we play good defense. Because
Yeah.
I mean I don't necessarily think that we have to play an amazing defense to win the game, because I think we could just have a game like Kentucky was last year where our defense was bad, but we just outscored Kentucky.
Yeah.
And that could happen. So it's not a necessary thing, but it'll make it a lot easier to win the game, and it'd be better. But
Yeah.
I personally think the biggest key to a victory against Pitt is not having turnovers, not giving up the ball to Pitt, and getting turnovers, like getting interceptions from Pitt. If we can do that, I think we win the game. If we're plus in the turnover category, then I think we win the game. I don't think there's any way we lose the game if we're plus in the turnover category. So I think that's the biggest key to winning this game is getting them to turn the ball over more than we do. So
Yeah,
that's my biggest key.
I agree with you, like, completely. I think it really just comes down to defensive pressure, and if we can get some pressure, the DBs are going to have an easier time. I think without any pressure, defensive backs are going to struggle in this game. Like you were saying with the Kentucky game from last season, if it comes down to a shootout, I believe we will win. But honestly, I think if our defense gets, a couple stops, like, we don't need that many. We need a couple stops throughout the whole game. We need like 3 or 4 stops. And if we just get a couple stops, we're golden, because I don't think Pitt's defense can stop our offense. I really don't. And going to the offensive side of the ball, it really keys in on the running backs. Can we take advantage of, what West Virginia did to them, to Pitt last week? Can we run the ball all over them? If we can do that, it's going to open up the passing game. And, I mean, going back to one of the best receiving corps in the nation, Tillman, McCoy, Hyatt. I mean, we've just got guys all across the board. And, if we can get a couple stops on defense, I see our offense scoring a lot of points on their defense. So I really wouldn't worry about it too much if we can just, get some defensive pressure, help out the DBs a little bit, and just get some stops, man. And like Levi was saying, don't turn the ball over. Don't give them free opportunities. That's a big key. But yeah.
So what do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I'm actually, when you look at Pitt's game, I mean, obviously we talked about how they're definitely going to start as a rush heavy team. I mean, they had 3 total touchdowns among all their running backs. I think they're going to be a test for our defense for sure with passing and then getting to that goal line. I think we're definitely going to have goal line stands throughout the game. That's what we're going to have to be worried about with our defensive line. I think we definitely have opportunities because I know in the Ball State game we had a couple pressures. We did not have any sacks, but I think obviously if we get pressure to the quarterback throughout the game, there's going to be turnovers. Even though we might not have any sacks throughout the whole game, I obviously think QB pressure is going to be our biggest thing for this game against Pitt. Our offense is going to score. I don't think Pitt's defense was even all that amazing. I mean, it was a 38-31 victory, and the defense was really the one that won them the game. Not really being a good defense. I mean,
Yeah.
They had the one interception, pick 6. I mean, I think that's really it. And again, like Trevor said, I mean, that wasn't even really JT Daniels' fault. I think there's going to be some keys to take away with looking at Pitt's defense. I think that's definitely where we're going to be able to exploit on our offense and our defensive side. Love to see our linebackers in pass coverage, but also love to see some blitzes off the edge. Maybe throw a slot corner in there. I'd love to see those pressures because I think that's where we can get our sacks.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between this week and last week. We didn't do that against Ball State.
Mm-hmm.
But this week hopefully we can dial up a little bit more pressure, show a little bit more.
Another thing I want to point out is I think Pitt's going to try and come out in the first quarter and get some big, deep pass plays in order to try and score fast. Because they know if they don't score in the first quarter and score fast like us, we're going to get up on them like we did against South Carolina and Missouri last year, and it's not going to be good. Once you get in that hole against Tennessee, there's no coming back. Like, I don't think any teams we did that to last year were able to come back because we got up on them so fast in the first quarter. It was just the game was over then.
Yeah,
So,
we're out here finishing games too.
Yeah.
Compared to other coaching staffs, we're out here putting up numbers, but also closing games, which is a difference, between previous seasons, I think. Andrew, keys to a victory.
So going back, I kind of touched on a little bit, talking about the pregame earlier, but I think it's a battle in the trenches, guys. Pitt's going to stack that box a lot and try to get that pressure on Hendon, but also, we got to account for too. Hendon's he's versatile. He's not just, a statue back there. So he's definitely going to be able to, we're going to have to move that ball. We're going to have to win some 50-50 balls for sure. And we're going to have to win on the outside. The run game's where it starts, though, 100%. If we get, like I talked about earlier too, if we get that run game going, our passing game's going to be amazing. You know what I mean? I think we go up quick. I think defensively, we definitely have to get some pressure on Slovis, not let him just stand back there and make, some easy throws. So I'm looking for Byron Young and Tyler Barron, obviously, to get some pressure. We just need some pressure to help our DBs out, a little bit. But overall, I think we're going to be great. If they're, like Levi says, with coming in, they're supposed to be a run-heavy, offense. So they didn't look that impressive last week. So I feel very confident in our, us stopping the run. I think that's something we've always been good at. Finishing games for sure. I don't really have a problem with that. A little bit last year, in the second quarter or something, we would kind of flutter out a little bit, not really score anything, it seemed like. But I don't really see a problem in that this year. We played a lot of guys. I think a lot of people don't remember either last week. So just trying to get that experience for these guys, which is going to be huge going to this game right here. It's that next man up mentality. So if somebody goes out, I feel confident that these guys will have some experience to go in and at least be able to play in this big game. It's a big game. I mean, Johnny Mayer's Classic, right? So
Yeah,
should be pretty good. I'm
sure.
expecting Tennessee to come out. I think Tennessee's going to go in and handle business. But yeah,
For sure.
I think we're going to see a really good Tennessee offense this weekend, though, for sure, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see us take shots. I think against Ball State, we didn't take any shots down the field. I think our longest pass play was a 53-yarder to Jimmy Holiday, but I think he caught that, if I'm not wrong, I think he caught that short from
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Yeah,
And, I think it was a slant pass that he caught.
yeah, it was
That
a
was a
slant.
dime.
And that's
Yeah.
something you didn't really see from Hooker. Actually, didn't really even throw any deep balls.
No.
If you look back
Yeah,
at
see,
it,
that's the
that
thing.
was confusing.
Yeah, and that kind
Yeah.
of goes into players and matchups to watch that I kind of want to talk about here. Is
Yeah.
I want to personally, for me, I want to see the wide receiver versus DB matchup, man. I want to see our guys against their guys, our wide receivers against their DBs. I think their DBs are kind of small. I want to see us take shots down the field, man. We got Brew McCoy, Cedric Tillman, two guys that can make those jump balls, those 50-50 balls. They catch those all the time, man. And I think we can take advantage of that. And I think that's something we need to do. And I think that's something we will do. It's just interesting to look at last week how we didn't take any shots down the field. And maybe that was on purpose. Maybe we didn't need it. We threw a lot of screen passes, which is a key part of our offense, getting the ball in Hyatt's hands, faster guys' hands. But I want to see us take some shots down the field. So yeah, Levi, you got any matchups to watch this weekend?
Honestly, I'm the same way. I want to see that, but I also want to see how our D line and linebackers match up with their running. I don't want to, and another thing is I want to see our D line and the quarterback matchup. I want some sacks. We need some sacks. We need some QB pressure. If we want to get some turnovers, that's key to getting turnovers. You don't get turnovers by not pressuring the quarterback. 9 times out of 10, if a quarterback's thrown an interception, it's because he's getting pressured by the D line or a linebacker blitz or something. So you got to get that pressure on the QB. So I think that's a big matchup between the defense and the quarterback of Pittsburgh to watch for, and hopefully it'll be better than what it was against Ball State. But yeah,
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you guys. Looking at the wide receiver core versus DBs, that's definitely going to be a good matchup. I'd love to see our number one receiver, which would most likely be Cedric Tillman. I'd love to see him versus MJ Devonshire, the one that got the pick six, because he did nothing that game except for that one pick six. That's all he did, and I think that's definitely something that we can take advantage of because he had a couple times where he was just thrown over top. The number one wide receiver for West Virginia was the guy who the ball just went right through his hands. And
he had a good
game. 9 receptions, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns on Devonshire. I think that's definitely something that you can look at with Cedric Tillman. That's going to be a big game for him. I can definitely see that. But I'd also love to see Princeton Fant come out in this game.
Yes.
Nothing last game. Love Princeton Fant and his game, and I'd love to see him versus the linebackers over the middle, do little sit routes right in the middle. That's our little check down that we can do, and he can get yardage because he's a big guy. And I'd love to see him break out this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I'm 100% in agreement with Connor. I think something that I've really wanted to see that we haven't really got a chance to really do is get our tight ends more involved. I mean, we have 2 really good tight ends that in Princeton Fant and Jacob Warren, I believe. And your best friend in the red zone has got to be especially a tight end. I mean, especially a big tight end like Princeton Fant. Obviously, he had the one drop. I think that he got targeted last week in the end zone. But I really see him being a playmaker. Also, they've talked about putting him in the back for some pass protection or something on Hooker in case if they need that. But going back to matchups, I'm with you guys 100%. It's going to be DBs versus the wide receivers for sure. And I think we have some receivers that are going to step up and make big plays. I'm also going to say our O-line versus Pitt's D-line. I think that's going to be very important for allowing Hooker to have the time to get the ball out. you know, I didn't think their D line was that impressive as they should have been with everybody the way they've talked. I'm also going to say this too. I think maybe some of our special teams, we didn't really get any punt returns, I believe, or I can't really remember, but I think that could also be maybe like a key. We haven't really got to see too much of that, especially with, I think it was Bayless Jones last year punt returning. So I just want to make sure that's solid with that, and yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, as far as our breakout player prediction goes, are we all rocking with Cedric Tillman, or what's the deal? I'm for the defensive side of the ball. I want to see Trayvon Flowers ball out, man. He's a leader of that defense. Look for him to get an interception or something. We need big plays from him in the secondary. He's one of the leaders of the defense, obviously, as I said. I don't know. Just look for him to make some big plays. He was kind of quiet in the Ball State game. I mean, he had 7 tackles total. Kind of quiet though. So I just want to see him step up a little bit, be a leader of those DBs because our secondary is questionable. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I'm definitely rocking with Cedric Tillman. He's got to have a big game. He's gonna have a big game, and look for him to get. Probably I would say over 100 yards receiving and a couple touchdowns thrown in there too. As far as our receiving core, expect a couple of guys to go over 100 yards receiving for sure. I think that's almost a lock. And then, so definitely my breakout players I think will be Tillman and Flowers.
I agree with you. I think Cedric Tillman's gonna have a great game. I think Trayvon hopefully will have a great game. But I'm gonna look more towards the running backs. I think Jabari
Yeah.
Small might have a good game. I think he could be
Yeah.
a breakout player of the game. I mean, I hope so because we need that running game to open up the pass game. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's Jabari Small. That's who I'm gonna predict.
I like that.
Yeah,
For sure.
I can definitely see that. I'd love to see our running backs actually get into the game, especially the way West Virginia ran. Love to see them spread out the ball. Definitely think Jabari Small could definitely come out into this game. Love to look at Cedric Tillman and that DB matchup that they're going to have. Not sure if it would be Devonshire, but I mean, if it is, I think that's a lot for Cedric Tillman having a breakout game. I mean, he could easily go, like Trevor said, over 100 yards. But what I'm worried about, not really as a worry, but with breakout players being wide receiver, is Hendon Hooker's spreading of the ball. Could definitely think there could be one breakout, but I think the whole wide receiver core, like Trevor said, there could be multiple guys with over 100 or even close to 100 yards with the way Hendon Hooker's spreading out the ball and the way these DBs are. Love to see that. But I think looking at mine, Cedric Tillman is an obvious breakout, but I'd love to see Princeton Fant, their tight ends, because looking at Pitt's tight ends, I mean, there was a couple targets for them, and most of their big plays were through the tight end. I mean, their longest pass of the day was a 32-yard pass to their tight end, and I think that's definitely something that could come out. Our tight ends could definitely be a big factor in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen much of Princeton Fant really throughout his whole career. I feel like he hasn't gotten a lot of touches, but I agree he's got the potential to be there, and he is great in the run game. That's a key to our run game right there. Andrew, what you got?
Yeah, so just quickly talking about Princeton Fant, I would love to see tight ends get more involved in our offense for sure. I think we have some weapons on that side. My breakout player, though, I think it's going to be a given that Cedric Tillman's going to ball out, have a big game. But my breakout player is going to be Brew McCoy, guys. I think opposite of Cedric Tillman, he's going to go and ball out. He looked physical from the touches he got. I think he's going to win a lot of 50-50 balls that's thrown his way as long as it's there. I look for him to have a big game and hopefully be able to score his first Tennessee touchdown with us, and that would be huge for him. And just all he's went through, I would love to see that happen. But I think him and Tillman are just going to be a menace for that defense, man. Especially that yak yards after receptions. I think it's going to be pretty nice. But on the defensive side of the ball, I actually look for Jeremy Banks, guys, to have a big game. Yeah. I think he's been there. I think he's going to have a lot of tackles, especially if they're going to go run heavy. He's always. It seems like every time I look at the TV and they're on defense, it seems like Jeremy Banks is always at the ball somehow or another. So I look for him to have another big game. I hope Trevon Flowers has a big game, but also, I hope Byron Young or somebody up front can get some pressure and some sacks. Hopefully, we got to get some sacks. If we don't get any sacks this game, it's going to look it's going to have me a little worried, But I think we're going to get it done. And Brew McCoy and Jeremy Banks are my picks for the breakout players.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Banks had a great game last year whenever we played Pitt. He had a couple costly penalties, and I think he needs to clean those up, obviously. But yeah, he's going to have a great game for sure. The leader of that defense down there. So score prediction. Levi, what's going to be the score? Who's going to win?
All right. So I was thinking about this, and I was trying to think. I think it's going to be a close-ish game, but not really. So I think we're going to win by 18 points. I think the final score is going to be 48-30.
No way.
High
All right, I
scoring
love
game.
it.
48-30.
I love it.
And we're going to keep that over 45 point streak, 5-game streak going. Get it up to 6. Break the all-time
Yeah, I love it.
the all-time record.
I love it. I'm going to actually go with 45-31. I thought about this a lot too. The thing for me is I think we're going to win by 14 just because dude, I think the defense is going to get a couple stops and that's going to be the difference maker, right? I mean, like I said, if we get a couple stops, the game's over, really, for me personally. I mean, as far as our offense is concerned, I don't think they can stop it, and if they do, I think our defense can come through. So I'm just going with 45-31 Tennessee. All Vols, baby. Connor?
There you go. I see what you guys are saying with those. Looking at the over-under, it's looking to be 64.5. I could see this game going well over that, especially with Tennessee scoring. Love to see them just completely outscore Pitt, but I mean, I feel like our defense is going to step up this game, especially what we looked at last game. Looking at the interviews that Josh Heupel had after the Ball State game, he didn't fully like the way the defense was playing with, as Andrew was saying, the pressure that we were getting on the quarterback. I think we're going to get a lot more of that game, and there's definitely going to be some step-ups. I would pull out, and this is a bold for me, I'm pulling out a 24-48 victory. Balls.
Let's go.
Big dub. All right, Andrew.
Yeah, guys. So I think keys, obviously, if our defense steps up, I think our offense just outscores flat out. I'm going to go with a 45-28. I think we're going to get over that 40, that 45 mark again. I think Hendon Hooker, I just think, our deep balls, I think the receivers are just really going to step up. Jalen Hyatt included. I know we didn't really talk about him, but I think they're all going to play a key piece. As long as we can get a couple turnovers and stops on that defensive side of the ball, I think it's going to be a big game for Tennessee and really wake everybody up in the SEC that we're here. So that's what I hope for, at least anyway. I'm predicting 45-28 though.
All Vols, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say though, I think it will be a close game in the first half of the game though, for sure. I think Pitt's going to come out firing, throw us a little something, but I think we're going to be able to handle it and respond for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close too. That's why, honestly, y'all's predictions are surprising me a little bit. I thought 14 points. I had the lowest victory for us, I think, out of all of our prediction. I had 45-31. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think maybe we're not giving Pitt credit enough. I think it's going to be a tough game.
I think
we'll pull away at the end, but I don't know.
I think it is the
I thought about giving Pitt 35. I don't know. It's going to be close. I think they can definitely score, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just the biggest question to me is if their run games. I think we're going to stop that run game, and they're going to have to opt for the air. As long as we can get pressure, I think we can really stop and slow them down at least.
See, I think it could be a close game, but and I think it will to an extent. But I just think we're going to take it away from them. Get high end points higher than they can, and that's just the way I see it. But you never know, it could be a close game, 35.
Yeah,
40.
for sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But my honest reaction is I think we beat them by 18 points ish. That's
Yeah.
just my
Yeah.
personal view, but you never know.
And
All right,
guys,
guys.
too. I mean, our offense is gonna. I mean, our starters are gonna be out here all 4 quarters. There's no doubt in my mind. And like last week, I mean, we're not gonna be rotating. The rotation is gonna be slim a lot. It's gonna be cut a lot more down. So I think for sure it could go. This is one that I've been tossing up this whole week. So I feel confident that we're gonna be able to go out there and score, and it's gonna be close in the first half. But I think Tennessee's gonna be able to pull away.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Let's take a look around the country. Let's move on to our next segment. Let's review some of last week's matchups, last week's games. Guys, what surprised us in these games, and what's some analysis we can take away from SEC teams and the top teams in the country? Levi, you got a couple matchups we can talk about?
I mean, of course, the two that are going to stick out to everybody are Florida LSU or Florida versus Utah and LSU versus FSU.
FSU.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up the App State North Carolina game. That game,
Yeah.
just like as a fan, is just insane. Like you look
Yeah.
at it, Appalachian State scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. That's crazy.
I think
And
there's 60 points total in the fourth quarter. That's wild.
Dude, that game was just insane. And like I know like North Carolina and App State, we're not going to play them or anything, so like it's kind of a bad one to talk about, but I just want to bring up that game because like it was just crazy watching that. And I felt so bad for Appalachian State. I really wanted them to win that game, but
Yeah.
you never it's how
Bro, I
football
think
goes.
Dude, I think they're playing A&M this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later for matchups for next week. But App State's got a chance against A&M this upcoming weekend. But
I think so too, honestly.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, for me personally, I mean, that App State UNC game is insane. And one thing I take away from that game, and pretty much the rest of the ACC games from this week, ACC is average once again, maybe even below average. I mean, we had Clemson, they beat Georgia Tech 41-10. You watch that game, that game's close throughout 3 quarters, pretty
And
much.
Georgia Tech's the worst.
Yeah.
I think Georgia Tech might be the worst team in the ACC.
Yeah, and they gave Clemson all they could handle for about 3 quarters. And then, Clemson takes over. The one thing I'm impressed by is the FSU-LSU game. Florida State coming through.
Yeah.
Florida State deserved to win that football game. LSU did not deserve to win that football game. Both teams tried to lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sitting there with, I don't even know, a little bit above a minute, and you're FSU, you fumble on the goal line,
Yeah,
and you let
you could've just
LSU
kicked the
drive
field goal, won the
99
game.
yards and score a touchdown. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it blowed my mind. It honestly, I mean, I give props to FSU for sure, but I thought it was overall kind of just a sloppy football game. The quarterback play from LSU was just not great.
It makes me feel
It's
more
not looking
comfortable
too
playing
good
them
for-
later.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely makes me feel a lot more comfortable. Brian Kelly's got a lot of stuff to figure out. I mean, when you muff 2 punts and fumble them both, and give it back over. I mean, got a lot of special teams problems, the blocked field goals. I mean, they've definitely got their work cut out for him, and it's not looking good for the first impression for him. But
Yeah, a couple more takeaways from me is I don't know, just the Florida was impressive against Utah. I mean, we can say what we want about Utah being overrated,
Yeah.
but undoubtedly, I mean, Florida was impressive. Mostly just Anthony Richardson was impressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
the
the
rest
guy
of their
can
team
run the
was
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's also a couple games that were a lot closer than I think should have been. You got Ole Miss and Troy, 28-10. Ole Miss won that game. Kentucky won. They beat Miami of Ohio 37-13. South Carolina
South Carolina.
beat Georgia State 35-14. Those games were just a lot closer than they should have been. Obviously, it's week 1. I wasn't impressed with any of those teams. But, yeah, I mean, Connor, do you got any takeaways from week 1 from college football?
Oh, obviously the biggest one. I'd say game of the year, Old Dominion over top of Virginia Tech.
I literally
Yeah.
forgot about that game.
Just like everybody talking about it. That was a crazy game. I can't believe Old Dominion actually came out on top of that. Like, you just look at the scoring. Old Dominion
Yeah.
was on top into halftime.
Yeah.
Just absolutely insane that Old Dominion, I mean, a game that everybody thought, okay, Virginia Tech's just going to come out and just absolutely blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
obviously did not happen, and I think that's a crazy game. I don't think it's definitely game of the year. That was a joke. It was a joke. Don't take that seriously because there's a lot more that could happen. But I mean, I think that just sort of puts them that Virginia Tech where everybody's always like they can at least have a basis season. I think that's just sort of like you can't lose that week one game. Like,
Continues to prove my point of ACC is average or below
Yes.
average. And Old Dominion is 2-1 in the last 3 times they played Virginia Tech.
mhm.
That is absolutely crazy. A Group of 5
yeah.
school has a winning record in the last 3 matchups against a Power 5 school. So, yeah.
One thing that
I mean-
confused me from the last week of games is what was with all these Power 5 teams playing at Group of 5, like all these ACC teams playing at Group of 5 schools stadiums. Like,
Mhm.
how does that happen?
I don't know. I think
North Carolina
I'm
played
pretty
Appalachian
sure-
State at Appalachian State. Virginia Tech played at Old Dominion. Why is Virginia Tech playing at Old Dominion?
I'm pretty sure they scheduled like a home and home game with them. I don't know why.
Why
Like
would
they
you
played
do
them like
that?
the last 3 seasons in
I
a
think
row.
they're supposed to play them the next like 5, I think too. So
Yeah.
That's so weird to me. Like
Yeah.
that just shows you how bad the ACC is. Like they're bad enough to where they can schedule home and homes with Group of 5 schools. Like
Yeah.
Tennessee doesn't do that. Tennessee
Yeah.
didn't even do that with BYU. And BYU is like the
No.
best group of I guess you'd consider them a Group of 5 school. BYU is like the best beat Group of 5 school, and we didn't do that with BYU. We just had a home game. I honestly wouldn't have minded doing that with BYU though, because their stadium's kind of sick.
Yeah. Whiteouts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Connor, you got any more takeaways from this week?
I definitely would love to bring up the Ohio State Notre Dame game.
Mhm. Yeah.
That just proves right there. I mean, even it's a close game, and Ohio State came out on top, and I knew they were going to come out on top. But the way Notre Dame played, honestly,
yeah, I mean, it looked like Brian Kelly never
Mhm.
even left. Or I mean, they
Dude.
look honestly better without him. To be honest, I think their coach is doing a great job over there. I was going to bring that one up too.
I mean, honestly, they looked way better than they honestly ever did with Brian Kelly.
Yeah,
In my opinion, they were very competitive in that game. That was a very close game.
yeah.
They looked
for
very impressive. I know they lost and they only scored 10 points, but they were at
sure. It
Ohio
was a very
State.
defensive.
Mhm.
It was a very defensive game.
Yeah, and
for
if
sure.
you're an Ohio State fan, are you a little bit worried? I mean, they scored 21 points, like
Yeah.
arguably the best offense in the country. CJ Stroud's supposed to be a Heisman candidate. Are you worried about Ohio State football if you're an Ohio State fan?
Yeah, especially going into the Michigan looked great, I thought.
Yeah.
So that'll be another big matchup. So they definitely, I mean, it's still week one, like we said. That's a big game for week one. Notre Dame's always been pretty good, I think. But yeah.
I think one game we're
Yeah, I
forgetting,
mean-
guys. We're forgetting a game.
I was
I'm
going to talk
about
about
to talk about
the
one.
Georgia-Oregon game.
Yeah, I was gonna talk
I know
about the
Connor
Georgia
doesn't want to
game.
talk about that one, but
I-
that game
I was going to talk about it, yeah.
here, yeah,
Yeah, I
we'll let you.
definitely-
I'll let Andrew talk about it.
Levi, you go ahead. You go ahead,
No.
Levi.
Well, like, so when I think about it, is I definitely, no offense, Connor, because I know you like Oregon, but I think Oregon was just way overrated. And while
They were.
I still think that's an impressive win by Georgia, and it shows me Georgia is going to be really
yeah.
good this season. But
They didn't miss a beat, dude.
they didn't. But
No.
I do think Oregon's overrated. And same kind of thing with
Yeah.
Utah. I think Utah was overrated with Florida. But it still shows me both of those teams are still good because I think Utah is still a good team, and I think Oregon's still a pretty decent team. But I definitely don't think those wins are as crazy as people are making them out to be. But I definitely do think that makes me a little bit more worried about that Georgia game than I was. I mean, I already thought we were going to lose it,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
it could be a little bit
Dude,
scary. But-
Honestly, for me, the Georgia win is as crazy as everybody's making it to be. I know I know Oregon's overrated, but I mean, I think we were all in consensus of, dude, Georgia is not going to be as good this year. Like,
Yeah.
and their defense.
No, they didn't
I
have
mean-
a drop off. Yeah, their
Right.
depth is.
Stetson Bennett
insane
looks
there,
better than he
so-
did last year.
Yeah,
Like
Oh,
how-
yeah, that's
what I
definitely
was-
true. Stetson
That's what I
Bennett's
was
got
gonna
better.
say.
I mean, their offense looked
Yeah.
better than they did last year, and their defense is almost or just as good. That's scary. And I think they're
Yeah.
going to give Bama a run for their money if they play them in the championship, SEC championship
Mhm.
game.
Yeah. What I'm gonna say is that last year, I mean, Stetson Bennett, their offense was carried by their defense. I mean, the defense put up so many points. It seemed like last year, This year with that Oregon game, I mean, Stetson Bennett just looked like a complete. I don't know if it was the haircut or what, but dude, that man looked. He
Got the
was. I mean,
waves.
dude, he was 25 for 31,
Yeah.
368 yards and 2 touchdowns. The offense
368, bro. That's
carried. The
crazy.
offense was actually rolling with the defense on this one. I mean, that it's scary.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty for anybody. I think just going back, Oregon, it just shows how far ahead I think, or how much different SEC play is compared to the Pac-12, which Oregon's in. I mean, I love Oregon. I think Bo Nix is there, right? That's their quarterback or whatever. But it didn't look that impressive, Then again, I mean, that's all it's completely different match play over there compared to over here in the East. They're respected in their own conference for sure, But
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia just looks so good. I mean, so good.
And I agree with taking Oregon out of the top 25. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just look really
Yeah.
really bad.
It
Last
just
game
looked
on.
very
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, just like one more game I wanted to touch on, if you guys didn't have anything else, was just back to hating on the ACC. NC State beats East Carolina by 1.
Dude,
What did y'all think about that?
Missed field
that
goal.
game. Oh
I
my
hated
gosh,
that game.
NC State was getting so much unwarranted hype this offseason, and then they
They
do
were.
that. They do that,
Yep.
and it just shows you. It's like, dude, it's honestly like the media is just trying to find a team that's not in the SEC and that they can say is going to be good and like root for, and like it all
They're an
never
underdog
works.
story. They're an
Guys,
underdog
I
story
think-
every year. Yeah.
I think this just everything that happened in week 1, 2, that just shows that the preseason AP poll is literally useless.
It means nothing.
Mhm.
I mean, it means
where are they going
absolutely
off of?
nothing.
I mean, where are they going?
Yeah.
They're going off
I
the last season, but so much changes during the offseason.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I just think it's ridiculous. But it was I think there was a lot of games that were really good week 1. Some upsets.
Yeah.
We had it all, so I think it was great.
college football's back, baby, and I think it showed that.
College football's back, baby. Just started
All right.
to.
Definitely
yeah,
want to touch up on one thing. Going back to that Oregon Georgia game.
Yeah.
It does suck to see because you look at that and you think it's going to be a close game because I mean the way Oregon played last season, they didn't play amazing, but they played well, being a Pac-12 team, and it was their defense. And their defense, I could say, just watching all the games they played, they didn't play too many because they're obviously a Pac-12 team. But their defense, I swear, could have been a top 15, top 10 defense last season. And no one really talked about them because they have a lot of good players. Justin Flo, linebacker core. I mean, Noah Swell. I mean,
Thibodeau.
Sewell. I mean, they had Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, they had an amazing defense. And I think their defense is young. And they have some leaders on that Oregon defense. But I don't know about this season. With the way Bo Nix played.
Yeah,
I still think
sure.
Oregon's going to be one
I
of the
mean-
best Pac-12 teams. I think it'll be
Yeah.
USC and Utah at the top, and then
Oh, yeah.
Oregon close third still. But
Yeah.
that just shows
if
me
you
that
look
the
in
Pac-12
the-
sucks.
Yeah,
Watching
Pac-12
the
sucks.
first
ACC
quarter-
sucks. I mean,
watching the first quarter of that Georgia game too. I mean, it was only 7-zip. I mean, it looked like
Mhm.
Oregon was kind of hanging with them, and then second quarter it just exploded. I mean, 21.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 18 unanswered points by Oregon.
Bo
in that
Nix
quarter.
started turning the ball over, and it was.
Yeah, it just got ugly. It just got ugly after the first quarter, I think. But yeah,
All right, you guys want to talk about some week 2 matchups here?
oh yeah,
Dude,
for sure.
There's a lot of good matchups in this week. And we can just start from the
I got-
top. High noon.
Yeah, Bama
baby.
and Texas, bro.
Bama and Texas. That's a 12 o'clock Eastern time game, dude.
I think
I don't know what the spread is, but I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. I won't say anything yet.
I think the Bama-Texas game is the most overrated game of the week because I think Bama's going to roll Texas because I think
That's what I'm saying.
Texas is overrated. This game is only getting, like, people are only talking about it because it's Bama and Texas, two, like, historically
Honestly,
well-known programs. But
And
Texas,
because like,
I don't think
yeah.
Texas is good, though. Like, so, like,
No.
it's just not going
And
to be a good game.
it's mostly just because like Texas has joined the SEC in a couple seasons, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is gonna be a preview marquee matchup. The spread's 20.5. Bama's favored by 20.5. I think that's honestly okay. I think Bama's gonna win like 49-17. I don't think it's gonna be close. I mean,
No, yeah,
I
I
just don't see
agree.
it.
I agree.
Yeah. Another big game I got coming up later, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it since it's SEC, is obviously top 25 matchup, Kentucky and Florida. I think Florida's going to just go in and I think they're just going to roll over Kentucky, to be honest, unless
yeah.
something severely changed with Kentucky. I mean,
Agree.
I don't think – I can't remember. I know they had their star – their running back was out last game. I'm not sure if he's going to be back for this one. They were saying they hope so, but I just honestly was not impressed with Will Levis's play and just Kentucky in general.
It's
I
going to
agree.
make Florida look even more scary, I think.
Yeah.
The thing
Yeah,
is
for
I don't
sure.
think
Coming into our game.
I don't necessarily think that them beating Kentucky really badly should be evidence of that. I think it should be evidence that Kentucky's overrated. And I've been saying this for a really long time. I think Kentucky is the most overrated SEC team aside from maybe South Carolina.
I agree.
Yeah, and dude,
Yeah.
this is huge for. I mean, this is like do or die for Stoops. I mean, they're looking. They're really looking for for more than they're looking more than 10 wins than last year. They're at least looking. I mean, that's like the base level. They're looking for more. I mean, and everybody's talked about this being a huge year. Will Levis getting finally a year of spring ball and all that stuff under his belt and fall practice and all that, but. I just genuinely, unless something drastically changes, which it very well could in week 2, you never know how a team's going to differ from week 1. But I just see it not really looking too good for Kentucky rolling into that one. Florida's actually surprised me and looks actually pretty good under Billy Napier so far. So
Levi, I agree with your point. I really do think Kentucky is overrated. But I think the reaction from the general public and Vols fans, if Florida does blow out Kentucky, is going to be – we're all going to be worried. I mean, I know that they're
overrated. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Tennessee fans are already kind of worried about that Florida game after them beating Utah, so I don't think it'll change too much. It honestly just makes me think that Kentucky's going to get killed by Florida. And so, if Kentucky gets blown out, it's not going to change my opinion of Florida because right now my opinion of Florida is that's going to be a scary game. It's going to be a close one in Neyland. And I don't think the Kentucky game's going to change that.
Yeah, looking at this too, I mean, you're looking at a 3-0 Florida Gators team rolling in week 4 to Knoxville for their first road test. Probably if Tennessee gets the win over Pitt this week. I mean, that's going to be a huge game.
It's going to be a top 15. It's going to be a top 15 matchup.
Yeah,
right?
it will be a top 15 matchup.
Top 15 matchup with Florida being in the top 10. There's no way. If
we're looking at a primetime game.
If Kentucky gets killed by Florida, or probably even beat,
Florida's 8 or 9.
Yeah, Florida's probably 9.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Connor, you got some matchups you're looking at this week?
I mean, obviously, like you guys are talking about the Florida. I mean, I just wanted to go one more time back to that, which we're talking about Florida and Kentucky. That Florida-Utah game could have went both ways. I mean, Utah was right there on the goal line, basically.
Yeah.
About to score, and it was like second down. That game could have definitely went both ways. Anthony Richardson definitely carried that game. But a game that I'd love to see, which I think would be a good game, the first test for South Carolina.
Yeah.
Really true test, South Carolina, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Love that SEC matchup game.
Going to be a great game, yeah.
I think Arkansas could definitely pull over, but I think Spencer Rattler could have a breakout game that game, but the way he played, I'm worried about that.
He needs an O-line too. I mean, the O-line's got to step up. If you look, he got sacked. I mean, they got pressure. Yeah, I'm not really that big on Spencer Rattler in the first place, but I mean, I definitely think his production was limited because of his offensive line last week. Anyway,
they
just consistently got to the backfield. Yeah, so
they're very incomplete. They took some guys from the transfer portal, put them together. I mean, last year, I don't even think they were impressive last year, really. I think they're very overrated.
Yeah. And I think it's just a chemistry thing, man. Like you said, a lot of these guys haven't played with each other that much, you know, and everybody's high on Beamer Ball for bringing in, Spencer and that tight end from Oklahoma, I believe. Yeah. But I've not been impressed, We'll see in week 2. This is a big matchup. This will be a huge game. Does anybody know where it's at? Is it
at Arkansas?
Yeah, it's at Arkansas.
I think that's a dub for Arkansas all day.
I think Arkansas wins by at least 2 touchdowns, if not more.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing obviously if you're a South Carolina fan, you'd love to see them get the win, but just don't get blown out. I mean, that's a huge,
Yeah.
it's a huge
Gotta be
thing.
a close
If you're going to go and lose in it's an away game, they're expected. I mean, ESPN's got it 74%, Arkansas's game to win here.
Spread.
Just make it a close game if you're South Carolina,
Yeah.
We'll see. The spread's 8.5 for Arkansas. I say they win by more than that, but
Yeah.
all right. A couple more games to touch on real quick. I'm just going to go through a couple games I find interesting, and we can talk about a couple of them if you guys want to. I got number 23 Wake Forest at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Now, hear me out, man.
Yeah.
Hear
That's
me
pretty
out.
Cool.
Vanderbilt's got I think they got a little bit of a shot to win this game.
It's at Vanderbilt.
At Vanderbilt, dude. Okay, the thing is, for me, just quick. Sam Hartman is back for Wake Forest, their QB. They missed him a lot last week. I think he's back. He's been cleared at least, because I don't know if you guys knew that Hartman had the blood clot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's key to that offense. That offense that offense was one of the best last year. But I don't know. Vandy's got a little bit of a shot there.
Here's what I'll say.
They
I
got
think.
more hope than they've had.
Yeah. But here's what I'll say. I don't think Vanderbilt wins the game. I don't think they even come close to winning the game. But I do think that this game is their most important game of the season because it's going to show them how the rest of their season's going to go because it's going to show them how good they actually are. Because
Can they compete?
They played two bad teams first weeks. They blew out the first one, and then the second one was kind of close.
Yeah.
So, it just shows me, the second game kind of shows me that they're not as good as people are thinking. People are just saying, oh, Vanderbilt's 2-0, so they must be doing good, but they're not looking at the matchups.
Hey.
Playing Hawaii, the worst
they're
team in the
top of
country,
the
Elon.
SEC, man. I mean.
And they
Yeah.
they let Elon score 31 points on him, I believe.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to see Vanderbilt do good in this game, though, guys. I mean, I want to. I know that they'll win. I don't think they will win, but I mean, it's kind of like the Tennessee, when we went through the whole Pruitt era and stuff. But I mean, for them, it's like 20 times worse. I don't know why necessarily they're in the SEC. I think a lot of people have asked that, but I genuinely hope that they get at least something that looks on the bright side for them at this game. I'll be pulling for them, I think, even though it's because they're an SEC team. So
yeah,
for sure. A couple more games I'm just going to mention
SEC.
real quick. We can talk about a couple more games. I'm just going to mention a couple games we don't necessarily have to talk about. I got North Carolina at Georgia State. Now, Levi was talking, it's another ACC team on the road against a Group of 5 school. Can Georgia State pull out that victory? I mean,
they could. Maybe.
I mean, they can.
We'll see.
They could. We'll see. Then a couple more. We got App State at Texas A&M.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
one I
said-
want to touch up on.
Dude, yeah, go for it.
I mean, I love that game for Appalachian State. I think it's going to be difficult coming off that close loss with UNC.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at that game, the way Bryce played. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns that game. Appalachian State had 40 points in the fourth quarter alone. And the way King played for Texas A&M, their quarterback, 3 touchdowns, yes, that's great. 364 yards, but 2 interceptions. I think Appalachian State defense could definitely step up for this game.
I agree. It's going to be a lot closer than people are giving it credit for. And A&M's on upset alert. I think they're very overrated. And we'll get to our SEC power rankings in a minute. I think I have them too high. I won't lie, but
I don't think
I'm
Appalachian.
gonna go do as well.
I don't think Appalachian State's going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a really close one, and it's going to show people that Texas A&M is not the number 6 team in the country, and that's But I would love for Appalachian State to roll in there and beat Texas A&M. I would absolutely love it because Texas A&M fans, anytime somebody ranks any team other than Georgia and Bama ahead of them, they start freaking out. And so it would be nice to see a game that kind of shuts up Texas A&M fans. But
we got a Group 5 matchup.
Go ahead. I think you're about to talk about it.
No, you're good. You're good.
The Baylor versus BYU guys. That's a matchup. So that's gonna be really good.
It's at BYU. 10:15.
Yeah, it's at BYU.
Eastern time. Dude, can BYU pull off the upset?
Yes.
I think they very well could. This is if you look at the stat sheet at least, they're very close teams to each other. I feel like evenly matched. I think it could go either way. It depends on who's going to get that jump.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I think BYU has an advantage being played at BYU. Baylor's looked okay. I think the quarterback play by BYU's quarterback, it's looking good. He only had one interception. He went 25 for 32 for 261 yards and then 2 touchdowns. So he's looking pretty good. I think I'm gonna have BYU pulling off an upset here.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. A lot of people
I
have
can
Baylor
definitely
in
see
their college football playoff, early preseason college
Yeah,
football playoff prediction. I don't
yeah.
see it. I really don't. They're going to lose a Big 12 game for sure, I think. And they might lose this one this upcoming week.
I mean, they played Albany the first game, and
Yeah.
it's the Great Danes. I mean, they won 69 to 10. That's impressive, sure, but I mean,
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. I can just see BYU. I thought BYU after their first game looked actually pretty good, not terrible. You know what I mean? And especially the home field advantage at BYU will be pretty important. I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun game to watch. I'll for sure be tuning into that though, for sure.
Oh yeah. I think BYU's definitely going to be pulling off that Zach Wilson hype. I mean, they are the Cougars for a reason. I definitely see that.
So true, man. So true.
So true.
All right. So do you want to get into the power rankings now?
Yeah, let's start on some power rankings. Oh, Connor, you got
One
another.
last thing, I want to bring up one game. This is like my big prediction upset of the week. USC versus Stanford.
Dude, I almost want to talk about that one. Yeah, go for it.
I think that Stanford could definitely come in. It's at Stanford. By all the games I've watched of Oregon, Stanford has been the biggest team. No matter who they have, they just have that offensive prowess that they just score points. Their defenses have never been amazing, but like if their defense gets one stop, it's a shootout game, and I think that's exactly how it's going to be with USC. And I could see an upset where Stanford wins. I mean, nobody's talking about it, but it's at Stanford.
I agree with that.
I think that's a big game to look at.
First road test for Lincoln Riley or USC under Lincoln Riley. Can they live up to
Be a
that
big
hype?
game.
I mean, Caleb Williams played their team in general, they played Rice, of course. Big win. They looked impressive for sure. I think even if they were playing a better opponent, they would have looked impressive as well. Can they, go on the road first road test, Pac-12, 7:30 Eastern time at Stanford. It's going to be closer than people are going to give it credit for. And Stanford could come out with that victory. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Power ranking time?
Okay, so obviously my power rankings, one of the big ones I want to look at, and I'm really the only one out of all our power rankings that had them this low, but South Carolina, I have them at 13. I definitely think South Carolina is a little overhyped. They went into halftime up only, I want to say, like 5. It was like 7-12 versus Georgia State. They're obviously a high upset team. I don't think South Carolina should be as high as they are. Even though they won, it was all their special teams. Their special teams, 2 blocked punts, 1 returned for a touchdown. That's, for me, the only reason why they won that game. Because it was a close game throughout. Even though it doesn't look that way, 35-14 versus Georgia State. South Carolina should not be as high as they are, and for a lot of people. And I just think that's definitely something that should be up there. Looking at Texas A&M, I know we were talking about it earlier. They could be a lot lower, but I feel like Texas A&M is where they're at 6 for me, because they're just better than all the other teams that are down the board. I mean, Ole Miss, they played a decent game, I'd say, versus Troy. I mean, they could have done a lot better. I think Texas A&M is also better than Kentucky, better than Miss State. I mean, better than a lot of my lower teams down the board. And I think Texas A&M is a good spot at 6. I think Arkansas is obviously ahead of them. Tennessee at 4. Obviously, love to put them top 3, but I think Florida is definitely one of those scary teams, as we were talking about earlier. Georgia at 1. Loved the way they played versus Oregon. I mean, just Stetson Bennett's decisiveness. He came out, like Andrew was saying, as a top quarterback that we didn't think that we'd see this season. Hate to say it as a Tennessee fan, but Georgia's doing good this season, but I think they can definitely make a run for the SEC championship. That's my 3 major takeaways from my power ranking.
Definitely my 3 major takeaways from my SEC power rankings. I'm going to start with the top of the list and go down a little bit. My first takeaway is A&M is at 3 because there's not a solid 3 team, I think. A solid third team in the SEC right now. I mean, it's week 1. There's a lot of teams that are unproven. But A&M, I mean, coming off of last year, going into this year, beating Bama last year, coming into this season, looking pretty okay. I mean, pretty good against Sam Houston State. I just don't think any team is necessarily better than them right now in the SEC at that 3 spot. Just because, like, I don't think there's a solid third team. I think it's the 1 and 2, and then everybody else. So yeah, and I honestly think that A&M spot's going to change for next week's power rankings, but we'll see. My second takeaway is that Florida right now is the 4th best team in the SEC, and that is because they beat a Utah team, a number 7 ranked Utah team. Yes, they could be overrated. Yes, they probably are overrated. But I mean, looking past the hype, Florida surprised me, and I think it surprised all you guys. I think they surprised all you guys too. I mean,
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is that guy for them. The defense, questionable, I think. I think the defense is questionable. Even everything, honestly, everything else on their team is questionable. Anthony Richardson is that guy, and he's going to win them some games. They just looked impressive, and as far as power rankings go, you know, Florida at 4, I mean, they had a big win. Let's be real.
Yeah.
My third take is, dude, looking at 7 through 10 or 11 on my power rankings, the middle of the pack, my third takeaway is the middle of the pack is interchangeable.
Yeah.
7 through 11 is very, very similar, and there's not a team that's, you know,
Definitely.
separated from the pack. Like, I got Ole Miss at 7, Kentucky at 8, Mississippi State at 9, South Carolina at 10, Auburn at 11, even LSU at 12. I think all 6 of those teams are interchangeable, man. They all looked very similar in their openers. Ole Miss had a close game. Kentucky had a close game. Mississippi State also kind of had a close game. South Carolina had a close game. All these teams played very
LSU was
average.
the only one who played a good team too, so that kind of shows
Yeah.
you that,
And
like,
they all looked average. Like they none of them looked top 25 to me, and a
Yep.
few of them are, and that's crazy. But that's my 3 takeaways.
All right, yeah. So the takeaways from my power rankings here. Going back to, I'll start at the top here. Just looking at what Trevor says, I don't think there's a solid. I think there's definitely a solid 2. The 3 through 6 for me is like interchangeable, kind of a little bit. It can float either way. I'm going to go down here and talk about number 9, Ole Miss. Nobody's really been talking about them right now, but I think they have serious problems right now. That's why I have them like this. I mean, losing Matt Corral, and a couple receivers, they just did not look that impressive to me for what is Lane Kiffin's standards, and we know how he can be. So I have them pretty low. I also have LSU. They played a good Florida State team. I just thought there was a lot of – it just didn't look very – what Brian Kelly was all talking about, all the hype in the offseason and stuff, because LSU can recruit really well, but I mean, it's very sloppy football, I thought. Going up, so my first take will obviously be, the interchangeable, there's not a solid 3 team, I think. So, but my second take going up, let's talk about Georgia. Like Connor was saying, I just thought they were very dominant. They played, I think Oregon was ranked number 11 or whatever. I mean, they just dominated from start to finish. I mean, Stetson Bennett finally came out and showed us what, a starting quarterback should be and carrying. I mean, I thought the offense was very lethal, which it's going to be scary for the rest of the SEC. I think they're a very big contender against Bama. So I have Georgia obviously number 1 there. I'm also going to go down here. Let's talk about South Carolina too. My biggest takeaway from them, everybody also the hype with Beamer Ball and Spencer Rattler and all the transfers and stuff they're getting in. I just thought they didn't mesh really well. I just thought, a lot of these teams played, from let's say 7 down. They just played not that well known, that good of teams, and I just thought they just didn't play that well. I thought it looked very sloppy. Not that much chemistry, The offensive line's got to figure some stuff out, and Spencer Rattler as well. to live up to that hype. And that's why I have them sitting down here at 10, maybe lower, like I said. Same thing with Kentucky. I just didn't really see Kentucky being up front with or above Florida or Tennessee right now just because of the quarterback play. I think quarterback play from Tennessee and Florida was great. Kentucky, Will Levis just didn't look like what everybody was saying he was in the season. I definitely see them getting better, I think, but they just struggled really hard in that game, and it was a game for a little while. But that's definitely my 3 takeaways for sure.
My 3 takeaways are first off, you notice at the top, I got Alabama over Georgia, and in all honesty, that pick is kind of like I'm the only one with Alabama over Georgia right now. But like in reality, I think those two are pretty interchangeable for me personally. So like that doesn't
Yeah.
really them being up there isn't really that big of a deal to me. But then of course I've got Arkansas at 3, and I think Arkansas is the 3 spot because I don't know, they didn't look outstanding against Cincinnati, but they beat a good team in Cincinnati, and I think down the road when we're going to be looking at it, I think Arkansas is going to be a better team than Texas A&M and Florida. I'm not sure necessarily if they'll be better than us. They might be. We'll see. Right now, I have them ahead of us, but at the end of the season, I think looking back on it, Arkansas is going to be a better team than A&M and Florida, and that's why I have them above those two. And then, of course, I got Florida at 6 instead of up higher. I think they looked impressive, and I definitely think they're better now than I had them before, but I don't know. I think that Utah was overrated, and so before the
They still have a
season,
lot to prove.
yeah,
Yeah.
before the season started, I had them more like number 10, and now I have them at 6. So like they're definitely better than I thought they were going to be, and so they're going to be up there higher. And in reality, I think 4 through 6 is pretty interchangeable right now, to be honest. So that's my opinion. Because I think Texas A&M didn't look great, and everyone had them up on a pedestal higher than everybody else other than Georgia and Bama, and so that's why I think they're interchangeable with us right now. But that's just my view. And then if you look down at the bottom, I don't know. Those kind of teams, all of them, I think 7 through 14, all those teams are not that great, especially South Carolina, Auburn, Missouri, LSU, and Vanderbilt. And so that's just kind of why I have them there. But yeah, that's about it. That's all my takeaways.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of the VolBoyz podcast. Once again, follow us on socials at YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at VolBoyz podcast. That's boys with a Z. And don't forget, go Vols, baby. Beat Pitt. Let's go.
The Tennessee Volunteers are back.